And I came across our next speaker actually at a KPMG get-together we had in San Francisco over the summer. And it was at that get-together that I realized that our next guest is probably, I don't think he's the one and only, he's certainly not, but he's a very active coding CEO. He's also a serial entrepreneur. And I'm delighted to introduce his company first, New Relic, who build and provide the world's best web application performance monitoring software, delivered in a SaaS model. Now, our next speaker, please welcome to the stage Lou Cirne, who's here to talk to us about your customer and the fact that moments matter. Welcome, Lou.
Thank you, and good morning. It's a real pleasure to be here. My name is Lou Cirne. I'm the founder and CEO of New Relic, and I'd like to talk to you about moments, which seems a little bit soft for an enterprise crowd, but I think it's very important for us all to think about moments and why they matter. And if you'll bear with me, I think it'll all make sense in a bit, but I'm going to start with a question. What is the most important thing we all have? What's the most important thing we have in life? Is it our friendships and relationships? Are the people important to us? Sometimes people act as if the most important thing is our money. Is it our peace of mind, getting a good night's sleep? These are all very important things. But I'd argue there's something else that's even more important. I think the most important thing we have is time. You know, people say time is money. I disagree with that. It's possible to make more money, but it's impossible to create more time. We only have so many precious moments on this planet. Only so many. They're finite. Once that moment is passed, it's gone forever. And what's interesting about that is, given that this is the most precious thing we have, I think we ought to do a better job of really thinking about how people spend their time. You know, there's a whole industry built around allocating capital, managing how you put your capital to work. How about your time to work? Here's something that's pretty shocking. This came out of a presentation last week by Andreessen Horowitz, showing how people spend their most precious asset, their time. The little white stuff is our sleep. If you came over from North America like me, it certainly doesn't all line up with nighttime. But then we've got our time in front of software, and then the rest of our time. And the time we spend in front of software is only going to grow. It's not going to be long before the majority of everybody's life is going to be spent in front of software. Think about that. Think about how your most important asset is spent in front of software. One study we saw showed, I think, a conservative estimate of 6 hours a day being spent in front of software, be that on the mobile device or the laptop, desktop, and increasingly software on the home TV, for example. So you could break that time out by what device you're spending it on, but I'd like to break down how time is spent in a different way. There's time where you're spent in a purely joyful, delightful state in front of that software. That software is doing something that is bordering on magical that you can't believe is possible. It's making your life better, right? My favorite example of that was on a very rainy night last year. I needed transportation. I was in San Francisco, needed to get across city quickly, and it was pouring buckets of rain. If it wasn't for Uber, I'd be standing in that rain, waiting for a cab, holding my arm out, getting wet, and wondering whether or not the car was ever going to show. And if you know San Francisco taxis, the answer is probably never. But because of the software, I could sit in the warmth of my hotel, seeing exactly where the car was, and when it pulled out, I could just walk into the car, and know I was going to make my next appointment on time. That's an example of delightful moments in front of software, right? Then there's software working. It's doing its job. You're spending your time in front of this. You might be banging out an email. You might be surfing the web or doing something a little less productive, but it's fine. It's certainly not frustrating you. And it may not necessarily be delighting you. But then there's the third category. That's where it's really, really upsetting you. It's frustrating you. It's not a great experience. And the easiest to think of frustrating experience in front of software is when software doesn't work, right? When software is too slow or buggy or unreliable or the site is down. That's really, really frustrating. And it got me thinking, like, I think it's conventional wisdom now that slow websites cost you money. Slow software costs you money. Slow mobile software costs you money. Why is that? Why is it that if you expect a page to load in less than a second and it takes 5 seconds, why does that frustrate people so much? Is that the mother of all first world problems? Is the 5 seconds really such a big deal? Well, I think the reason why people get so frustrated on such a short delay is because during that extra 4 seconds when you know it should have delivered whatever that information you need on the screen, during that 4 seconds, you can sit there and do nothing but remind yourself that your time is being wasted. Your most precious thing is being wasted. And that's why I think it's so frustrating to people. But it goes beyond just whether the site is slow or buggy. You know, it's just whether the software is frustrating to use. I mean, this is 2014, and life is too short for bad software. If there's one thing I'm passionate about, is life is too short for bad software. If we're spending more than half of our waking lives in front of software, let's make it great software to use, especially enterprise software. I feel so sorry for so many enterprise people that sit inside software that looks like this. You know, this is people coming to work every day, sitting in front of a screen and like, you know, it shouldn't be a concentration camp. It should be a delightful experience, you know, using your software. You know, the consumer example of that I think of is when you fill out that form on the website for, say, you're booking a flight, and the form has 38 fields in it, and you fill most of them out, and then one of them asks for a credit card number, and you don't put spaces in the numbers, and somehow, like, the validator says you must put spaces in your credit card number. And so after you press submit, the whole form is empty, and you got to redo the whole form again. Has anyone had that happen to them? See, you remember that, right? That wasted your time, right? So I believe that moments matter. And if you're in the software business, and by the way, every enterprise is in the software business, every enterprise is in the software business, then think about the moments that your customers, be they internal users or your real customers, think about the moments they spend in front of your software. Let me use an example of delightful software, right, getting off the rant on the negative side. There's some really good positive stuff going on that excites me. I took this picture of myself at the brand new San Francisco 49ers stadium that just went up this year. And don't ask me about how the game went. I'm still kind of recovering from that terrible loss we just had. But I had a great time at this game. We won this game, and here's me photobombing the San Francisco 49ers mascot. His name's Sourdough Sam. But anyway, the point of the matter is when I'm at a football game, I want to spend my time watching the game. I don't want to spend my time in a line, waiting for things. And the 49ers have become a software company. They actually make it so that all I need to bring to the stadium is my phone. I can order food to my seat. I can see instant replays of every play that happened. It's pretty cool because the way the National Football League works is you can't stream football plays to the phone over the public internet because of all the licensing, right? But this app knows, using geolocation, that you're in the stadium, and therefore when your phone's in the stadium, you can restream every play. So I've got my personal instant replay on my phone, I've got food coordinating, I've got a fundamentally better sports viewing experience because of software. That's software in the green category, right? And so what does this mean for all of us in this room? I mean, if you're at Web Summit, chances are you're in the software business. And every business is a software business. So I believe we not only have an opportunity, we actually have an obligation as builders of software to build software that honors and makes the most of our customers' time. Because again, that's the most valuable thing people have. And that's how I think you ought to think about your software when you build it, when you deliver it, when you manage it. How do you do that? Well, building awesome software, I think there's two parts to it. I think there's most definitely an art to great software. As a builder of software myself, I just happen to feel like there's a real art to the process of building really innovative stuff. You know, some people work in clay, other people work in JavaScript or pick your language. But there is an art to it. It's no coincidence that The hospitality industry is being disrupted by Airbnb, which was founded by design majors from Rhode Island School of Design. But that, in and of itself, will not do the job. There must be a science component too. You must measure everything that your customers are doing in your software to know whether they are having a great experience. And that's where New Relic comes in. We bring science to measuring the real customer experience in the software. How fast is the software? How reliable is the software? And what are your customers doing with the software? If you're an online bank, how many people are using automated check deposits? How many people are taking a picture of that check with their phone? What's the average dollar amount or euro amount they deposit? How often do they do it? What time of day do they do it? How does it fit their lives so that their time is actually well spent in front of your software? New Relic provides the real data in real time to help you make better decisions, to make your software more amazing. And I think that fundamentally changes the nature of your business. Just like the 49ers are a football team that's also a software company. And that software is making the football watching experience better. They're using data from New Relic to measure that, to improve on it. Over 33% of the people in the stadium used that app in the third football game, up from 10% in the first game. That's incredible adoption, incredible adoption. So that's how New Relic helps. If you ask me what our mission is to provide software analytics to eliminate those bad experiences and deliver more joy when people use your software. And I think that's an important mission. Deliver more delightful moments. So I'd like to summarize. I've really only got 3 key points to say. The first is that nothing is more important than our time. It's precious. It's precious to all of you. Thank you for spending 12 minutes and 3 seconds listening to me so far. So there's nothing more important than time. Think about how people are spending their time. They're spending their time in front of software, your software. Okay? Think about how people spend their time in front of your software. Think about how you can use data and software analytics to deliver more delightful moments in front of your software. Thank you all.
Some kids on the show yesterday mentioned a new kind of music.